Welcome to Crack the Friendship Code. I'm your host, Theodora Voss. My pronouns are her, she, and hers. I'm seated against a white wall with vinyl records hanging up behind me. I have short, black, curly hair today, kind of like romance curls, if you will. And I am a Black woman with a dark and warm skin tone. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're seasoned here, nice to connect with you again. I've been in the learning and development industry for over 13 years, and I've contracted for some of the largest tech companies. And I love learning and I love teaching. And I've experienced so much of my own loss in life, from losing my mom at age 13 to my best friend passing away and going through a divorce all at the age of 26. So I understand the importance of developing genuine friendships as a result. And all of these experiences and lessons birth what you see now as Crack the Friendship Code. On our show, you're going to hear from myself and other women who have achieved success in different levels of their lives, whether it be career, business, or passions. Along the way, we have all discovered the importance of aligning our friendships with our purpose. And our hopes are that you too can ignite purpose aligned friendships and have more meaningful and genuine friendships. And with that, let me introduce today's guest. And every woman, again, who is on our show is nothing short of phenomenal and wildly successful. And Jeanne Omlor is not the exception. She is like the rule here. So, welcome, Jeanne Omlor. She is a business strategist, seven-figure business coach, and certified servant leadership executive coach. She serves coaches, consultants, and high-level business icons. Yes. So, at 54 years old, she was a solo parent in deep debt and got herself online into 1 million in 17 months without ads, and since has scaled to multi-millions in 4 years. Her company has held over 380 businesses to thrive online. She is emotionally connected to helping others make a good living, as she lived in lack for years and overcame that mindset. Ooh, she is now helping as many people as she can to maximize profits and reach their full potential while being the visionary they're destined to be. I swear, some people's bios, I read them and I get chills every time I'm like thinking about all the things that they've done. So welcome, Jeanne. It's really nice to have you here. Um,
Thank
Welcome
you.
to
It's
the
a
party.
pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Go ahead and introduce yourself, describe yourself and your background, let people know who you are.
Sure. First of all, that's the first podcast I've been on that you're helping visually impaired people to see us, because I used to actually be a volunteer for the Jewish Guild for the Blind. I did one of their morning shows, and I used to read to visually impaired people. So
Oh,
that's really aligned. So I am pretty white skinned. I'm Caucasian. I have pretty long black hair, and I have one of my big paintings in the background of Manhattan and one of my little awards. And it's great to be here. So my background is very mixed. I was born in California, grew up in Australia. We have a very mixed background, like most Americans: French, Ukrainian, Lebanese, Spanish, you name it. And I grew up in Australia, and then I lived in Europe for 8 years, and I went to New York City because I was an actress at that point. That was like 1998. And then I lived in New York for 19 years, and I lived in Cincinnati for about 5, and now I'm living in Florida.
wow. Okay. Yeah, you are like, so we have that in common. We're both, I was born and raised in California. Well, the born part, I was born in California too. So yeah, we have that in common. That's pretty cool. You have a really diverse background. You have really been all over the map. That's pretty cool. Wow.
Yes, thank you. It's funny that I don't you don't think about your life like that. It just happens. And then people go, wow, that's really diverse. Well, I guess it is.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny, all those little things set you up, for some of the things that you're going to do in the future, whether or not realize that those transferable skills, as corporate we call that. But I really think those things set you up for, what you're going to do in the future. So,
100%. I was just thinking that the other day. Thought, wow, it's really good I was an actress for so many years, because it's easier for me to do my videos. It wasn't easy at first because it's not acting. But once I got over the idea, okay, it's actually me, because that's hard, I thought, well, then I remember stuff more. So I can like say, okay, I'm going to talk about a reel like this, and I'll just put the points in my mind or on a piece of paper, and then I'll be able to do it. So you're correct. Having to learn full roles of Shakespearean plays comes in handy sometimes.
mhm. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes. I think this is a really good segue because, like, part of our first part of the interview, so as we all know, we're helping women, right, ignite their purpose and ignite purpose aligned friendships. And one of the things that happens often is I find that people often mistake career as purpose. And a lot of times it's not the career itself, but like certain elements that you're allowed to live out your purpose. Um, that enable us to fulfill that purpose. So for you, I mean, to me, your purpose is screamed through when we talked earlier. But can you tell everybody here like what your purpose is and how you really live that out in the world?
Well, that's so interesting because a lot of people confuse goals with purpose. Okay.
Mm.
Most of us, because I have a coach and we were working on my life purpose. And he goes, no, Jeanne, those are goals. And I said, most people confuse that. So I had to do some deep work on like what is my life purpose. And mine's a little more maybe mixed than most people. But I said, I finally figured out, like for now, maybe it'll change. My life purpose right now is really, apart from my kids and bringing them up well and all that good stuff, but in my career and as part of my life purpose, it is to help people to bring in more meaningful wealth into their lives while they are doing something that they love that helps other people. Because then if I'm helping you and you are helping other people, I have compounded interest of energetics that I'm helping you. That's like compound interest for me. So I'm helping you, and that helps me think, wow, I just took my energy and we just compounded that while you're making money, because I am emotionally connected after all I've been through to helping people make money, because finally I realized money's great. Money's good. Greed is bad. Money is amazing. Money makes you less stressed. It makes you a better parent, makes you a better friend, makes you more present, makes you have no anxiety, makes you enjoy your life. It's beautiful. And I think there's all this confusion over money being bad. No, greedy people who scam other people and steal are bad, right?
You're saying so much. I so earlier today I was walking around and I was just thinking about it. I was like, money, has really been flipped into that space of like being negative, being bad. But I was like, it's all the things that you do with it. And I think that that's the issue is people, we can't see past a lot of times our need, into that want, that desire, that design of how things could actually be, because you're so in that like mode of
Right. And
stress,
it's extraordinary because when you really think about it, it's sheer craziness.
Mhm.
So, is it a good thing to be able to eat? Is that a good thing
Yeah,
to eat? Yeah. Is it a
absolutely.
good thing to have shelter? Is that good?
Absolutely.
Is it a
Absolutely.
good thing to be able to wear clothes?
Absolutely.
Any clothes? Is it a good thing to, take care of your kids?
Absolutely.
So how come the vehicle for doing that is a bad thing? Like that just
Mm.
blows my mind that where's the line that, well, it's okay just so you have a little bit of money or not too much, and why all the goodness of taking care of yourself, people, charities, your church, whatever, how could that be bad? It's you're begrudging, you're biting the hand that's feeding you, which is money.
Literally.
Yes.
Okay, Jean. Yes, this is where we need to be. I love this. I really love this. Every time I listen to you so far, as I'm talking to you today, I like feel myself welling up with emotion. I've been like very open emotionally lately. Like it's just all hanging out, and it's okay. But I hear you talking, and I'm like, oh my God, yes. Like because you believe what you're saying,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I received this, I received that, I received this. Okay, yeah, that could be me too. Like just some of the things you shared so far today. And it's just you could tell you're on fire. That's the thing. Like you guys didn't get to experience what I experienced when we hopped on the call, but like she just immediately she's like, "What do you do? Where are you, like what are you trying to get? Like where are you trying to go? How fast do you want to do?" Like it was just yes, like you're on fire for your purpose. So it's really exciting to hear people that are in their purpose like that. Um
Thank you. And it was trial and error because this is like a reformed smoker, right? I was an artist and I was like, well, I don't care. I was the most unmaterialistic person and I was proud of it. Like, I'm not materialistic like those people over there that care about money. So I was coming from that lack of humility, actually. And I admit it, I was young. And, you know, why? Oh, it's virtuous to be poor. I mean, it can be virtuous to be poor if you want to be poor. If you're a nun or a priest or a monk or, a religious, that is virtuous. But when you think you're virtuous because those other people out there that make money are not as good as you, that's reverse snobbery. It's like
mhm.
people say that rich people are snobby. Well, there are people that are starving artists that are snobby because I was one of those people. I wasn't outwardly snobby. It was in my mind. I wasn't snobby ever to people, but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I don't care about money like those people. I'm an artist. So when I realized how in error that was and how stupid, it was like, what? why would I judge people? Because they care about taking care of themselves, you know? So then I went full circle. So I know what I'm talking about now. I came from way, way down there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I remember one of my early experiences as a child with my stepfather. I was so excited. I wanted to like, sell some jewelry and stuff. And then I forget what we were talking about later on, but then he was like, "Well, don't act like you don't care about money. You were just wanted to sell, sell jewelry at school." And so it felt like making money was a bad thing. But we were poor. We didn't have any food. We were all on welfare. And I was just like, we have two adults in the house. We're on welfare. But you are worried about me, worried about making money. Like that's weird. So the mindset, it really
That
dictates
that's
the circumstance.
that was some lack of humility and a disconnect, right?
Yeah, it really was. Okay, so you had to break up with that as a mindset,
Mm.
but were there any other limiting beliefs or even any friendships that weren't aligned that you had to break up with on your journey to, getting closer and closer to your purpose?
No, no, not at all. When you're my age, your friends are your friends, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing on Facebook? Cool." You know, it's different when you've had friends for years that are supportive and they just love you, and it's like, well, she's this. I've been through hell, you know. I'm a solo parent, been through a lot. They
Yeah.
were just happy, like great, you know. And on Facebook, when I first went on Facebook, I was never using Facebook for business before at all, and it was just friends from Australia or wherever that just we were there so we could use chat for free, right?
Mhm.
When they started seeing all this business stuff, they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" But they weren't, excuse me, they weren't judgmental. They're like, "Oh, interesting, what's going on here? Cool. Oh, I love this." Now I have a lot of my friends who comment on my business stuff, like, "Oh, this was really interesting." So no, I didn't have to break up with anybody.
That's awesome. Wow. Yes. I'm manifesting that for everyone that their friendships are that supportive and long lasting. I love that. I love that. Yeah,
I would
it's
no, I'll
it's
just put it this way. You made me think. I would not have a friend that would break up with me because I'm now being successful.
mhm.
That is not a friendship I want to have.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've realized, and I think so. One of the things that I try to teach people, like it's in our stay in your lane course, but it's about, giving a little bit here and there, like
Mm,
until you guys develop that trust.
mm,
Because sometimes I've noticed people in this generation that I've been coaching, that I've been talking to, is that we've given a lot up front, but we haven't established that this person is someone that we actually even want to
right.
trust those types of like exciting
Mm,
dreams with. Because you could trust somebody with a dream and they can squash it just as easily
right.
as you like shared it. And so sometimes we end up sharing too soon. So I think
Mm,
there's something to be said for that, like having developed those friendships that you had over
right.
time. So that's probably a part of that that attributes to that, I would imagine.
But it is an age thing. We're not going to put up with anything. I mean, I don't need to. The older you get, I'm not saying I'm like so old, but I'm not 30s, right? The older you get, the more it is like, why would I waste my time putting up with that? We
Mhm.
don't do that.
Yeah. Well,
Not
sometimes
worth it.
it just comes
Yeah.
out of nowhere. It's come out of nowhere, and you're like, "Oh, that's how you felt. Okay, well, it's
Mm.
time to go. It's time to pack the stuff and go." Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. So, okay, with that, um, were there, I mean, you had really good friendships, people positively impacted those friendships. But for you, because you decided to take on a journey of, being in business for yourself,
Mm.
and helping and serving others, were there any like positive, business friendships or connections that came out of that, happened along your
Oh,
journey? And tell us about some of them.
tons. I have great friends that I've met online. Like one of my best friends, I've never met him. Okay. And we met in a program and he said, "Hey, let's be accountability buddies." So he met me when I was not doing well at all. Like at all. I just started online and I reached out and said, "Hey, could you help me with this?" And he was super nice. And then he saw me like have this steep rise and he said, "Look, you'd be in a great accountability." He'd been in business and digital marketing for years. And I said, "Great." So we talk a lot and we've never met because he travels around all over the
Yeah.
place. And he said, "I cannot believe what's happened in 4 years with you." Like just so that was a friendship that very beginning and we're still friends and but we never met.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've made a lot of friends online. And I've met some of my clients actually. Some of my clients happen to be where I moved to. So there have been friendships from clients.
Wow. I love that. I'm manifesting that part for me. The clients that are friends too.
Right.
Um, so okay, what about that specific friendship? Was it like the accountability that kept that was, that
Um,
really
it was basically, we were both down to earth, I was just like, hey, I was very vulnerable. I said, I don't know how to do this. I knew nothing. He's like, sure. He was actually on a ship in like, icebergs. Okay. He's like, just a minute. I'm going to go take some photos of the icebergs and I'll be back. That's how nice he is. And I said, oh no. He goes, no, no, I travel all the time. So he was traveling and then we just started chatting and then, we were still in contact, but then he reached out and he said, hey, do you want to be my accountability partner? I think you'd be great. I said, sure. So now we're just friends.
oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
but it's and now he wants me to like go to we might go to Vietnam because he hangs out there. And he said, yeah, you should just come to Vietnam and work here for a couple months or something. So I was actually thinking of that.
Yeah.
But we're always talking about like where can we meet up with he and his friends. So no, it's been great. And that's just, we learn from each other. Now
Mhm.
I coach him, he coaches me. We just run stuff by and so it's been a really good online friendship actually.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that. I really
Mhm.
do. That's awesome. Okay, so it's your turn. This is your opportunity to ask me any friendship related question that you may have or you want a different perspective on.
Okay. So when do you say, I've had enough? Because we're very forgiving. When do you cut the cord? When do you say, okay, this happened, another thing happened, I'm losing trust, da da da. When do you say, or are you capable of that? And a lot of people can't do this. When do you cut the cord and how do you do that with a friendship that is really not a friendship anymore?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I've decided to take on the mindset and the kind of like the task moving forward to heal, like to always heal. So meaning there's a conversation, there's something, you don't just disappear or fade out.
No.
Fading out is not necessarily a bad thing if there's no bad blood. Like if there's
Mhm.
not a negative reason impacting that relationship, it's okay to like kind of do a fade out. But if there's something that like negatively impacted that friendship,
Mhm.
it has to doesn't have to resolve in us being friends moving forward, but there has to be a conversation because we'll instinctively take that into future
Mhm.
friendships and future relationships. So I am made a concerted effort moving forward to heal things and have conversations. But first, it's setting the boundary of like, hey, this didn't feel good. This is what happened. Like, this doesn't feel like you. Like how you mentioned earlier, always communicating from love. And you do that with your clients too. It's everything's from love, but it's, hey, this doesn't feel like you. This doesn't seem like your intention potentially. This is how it impacted me, and this is how
Mhm.
I felt. Owning the feeling, and
Mhm.
then if the person is still respecting your boundary or they're not living up to the expectation, it's up to us if we want to continue to engage. So, like in general, I have one friend who is completely scatterbrained when it comes to travel and I love travel. My goal is to go to all 50 states. I'm a solo traveler.
Mhm.
And she just can't get together. It is okay. I used to get really frustrated about it. But then one day I was like, you know what? This is just who this person is. She's
Mhm.
not trying to be malicious. Like we talked about it. And if I decide to travel with her as a friend, I have to then pick up the slack and coordinate and drive things.
Mhm.
And if I don't want to do that, then I need to not do that and just go
Right.
do it on my own. And so that really kind of opened the door for me to say, hey, I don't have to get rid of someone just because this keeps happening. Let's
No.
talk about it. And then the expectation gets adjusted. I adjust it for myself. So
Mhm.
I just don't go travel with you all the time unless I want to do all the planning,
Mhm.
Or like, so I've learned how to do that. So there's some times where you can salvage the friendship, but there's sometimes where they keep overstepping that boundary or the
Mhm.
expectation after you've communicated it. And for me, it's moving on after you've communicated it, especially
Mhm.
if it's been a couple times.
Mhm.
I think max of like three, because after three,
Just,
now
I was
you're
just
just
going to
pushing
say,
it.
usually people have like a number, whether they know it or not, whether it's like, that happened. Okay, well, maybe they had a bad day, maybe, and they apologize. Great. Then it happens again. Okay,
Mhm.
so now that's okay, all right. Three is a trend for
Yeah,
me.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's a trend at that point. Also, it's so challenging because we all deal with our own stuff, and um we really have to do what's best for us. Like, so with certain people, it's really interesting. There's some people where it's like 3 times you're out, you know,
Mm.
and there's other people where it's like it's been 5, it's been 6, it's been you're like, oh, why am I? But I love you so much, you know. So it just, I think everybody has a number based on the person that they're dealing with, and but for me, I'm trying to get it to 3 consistently, but also just the healing part. Like that's the big thing. Like we got to have a conversation. We can't
Mm.
just not talk about it. Like I had a situation a couple weeks ago before I went to Philly, and but it was romantic, but we were still like building a friendship first, you know.
Mhm.
And he just didn't want to talk about it. He kept wanting, like, I kept pressuring him, like, hey, why did you ask me about this? Like,
Mm.
hey, why did this happen? He just didn't
Mm.
want to talk about it, and I was like, okay, well, you know, I did my best and we tried to talk through things. You don't want to talk through it, and that's okay. But I did my best and I tried to heal it, you know?
Mm.
So for him, it's going to continue on into whatever relationship or friendship he builds next. But for me, it's not going to be there because guess what? I like, you know,
You healed
I
it.
worked on it. Yeah, healed it. Yeah. I'm feeling good about it because guess what? I communicated and I tried my best, and best didn't work in this scenario. All right. Like, move on, you know? So,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, that's how I would go about it, but everybody's a little different. And that's, you know, the point I think of the podcast too is for people to hear different things and like take their perspective, kind of formulate that through different stories and through people who they identify with. Because you know, everybody doesn't identify with me or my mode of communication or how
No,
I
and as you're
connect.
speaking, I mean, if we want to be really like evolved, right?
Yes.
We
Uh-huh.
can say, the negativity is within ourselves. That's like the mystics talk about that. And I was just talking,
Hmm.
the mystics talk about the negativity is in ourselves, right?
Hmm.
However, we are human. And if somebody's intentionally, because sometimes it is, overstepping the mark, that's one thing. If it's somebody's just clumsy and doesn't mean, well, sure, I'll forgive them every day of the week, right? But
Yeah.
it's when you start to, because you want to be open-minded, like, well, maybe that was a mistake. But sometimes it is within us interpreting other people's actions,
It
right?
is. It is. The stories we
Yes.
tell ourselves. Yes.
So that's the first thing is, am I, is the negativity coming from within me?
Hmm.
Because I know personally, I have done unconscious stuff sometimes. It was not intentional because I can be clumsy. I remember somebody was really mad at me, and I thought, oh, I didn't mean anything like I didn't even realize I was doing that. I was just like
Yeah.
being myself. And it was interesting because I thought, wow, that was zero intention of that. It was just
Yeah.
forgot, or, well, you did that the whole thing, you did that on purpose. Well, sometimes that's the other person misinterpreting because the negativity is within them because they've had a bad day. So
Yeah.
it's really important to really try to get out of the situation and see, is the negativity within me, or was that actually an intentional, like walking all over me, right? I
Yeah.
think that first thing is so important with
Hmm.
anything, friendship, relationships, business, you name it.
Yes. All my empaths that are listening, like me, really internalize that part because that is something that I think I've learned to ask myself constantly now is like, is this me or is this outside?
Mm.
You know?
Mm.
And that's really helped set the tone when going in. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm feeling fearful, stressed out. Oh, this isn't me. Okay. I'm calm.
Mm.
Now I can have this conversation.
Mm.
You know, so you're
Yes.
absolutely right in that respect. You know, it's so interesting. And that's why I said it's different per person because I feel like we have some intuition about things and about like people's intentions, but I still feel like we need to ask, like just be straight
Mm.
out. Because to your point, sometimes people don't even realize that that's how they're regarding you or treating you. And it's kind of like a little wake up call, you know, like,
Mm.
hey, this doesn't feel very good, you know. So yeah, I
Right.
really agree with that. Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation. You guys didn't get to see the behind the scenes with me and Jean, so you should be jealous. But I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again and probably having you on the podcast again. And I really love this conversation today. So thank you so much for being on.
Well, thanks for having me. This was an interesting one. People don't usually talk about this in the podcast. They're usually just like, how'd you do your business? All that. So this is good just to talk about other stuff. It's been a pleasure. I'll come back anytime you want.
Thank you.